Three NDC flag bearer hopefuls break ranks with their agitating colleagues paying the 20,000 cedis required to pick nomination forms, escaping a possible disqualification. We are live at the NDC headquarters tonight, where the functional executive committee meeting has been locked up in an emergency meeting over the issues surrounding preparations towards the presidential primaries.
The NDC.
Don't you know Atubiga is what he have to be president, Ghana president? Don't you know that? You yourself, don't you know that?
You tell me. You tell me.
This is Top Story with Evans Mensah.
Top Story is always brought to you by Bond. It's also brought to you by Gas and Cement, the Nation Builder. Vodafone, the future is exciting, ready, and nationwide. They had vowed to boycott the picking of nomination forms, but in the end, some of the agitating NDC flag bearer hopefuls gave in, agreeing to participate in a process that they had branded just 24 hours ago as illegal. In the last few minutes, one of the most vocal opponents of the process and second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, Alban Bagbin, who was yesterday on this show, objecting to the entire process, asking some National Executive Committee members to step aside from the process. He himself had some constituents pick up nomination forms for him. After all the protests and agitations and the media rounds to object to it, he paid 20,000 cedis that was required to pick the nomination forms. And there are others as well. We'll be going through that very shortly. But I want to take you live to the NDC headquarters now, because there's a live briefing that the National Executive Committee is giving to the press right now. I want to go there right now. My colleague Latif Idris is there for us. Hello, Latif. Hello, Latif.
Hello.
Yes, what is a briefing from the NEC?
Yeah, so what we have ongoing now is the Functional Executive Committee of the National Democratic Congress. They are currently still in the meeting. It hasn't ended yet, so we do not know exactly what resolution will come out of the meeting. But what we can also report is that what we are picking on the ground indicates that one of the key issues being discussed has to do with the filing fee, the 400,000 Ghana cedi filing fee issue. And so we are still hanging around to see what exactly resolution will come out of the Functional Executive Committee. In the meantime, the picking of nomination has closed. So as it stands, we have 5 candidates picking up forms. I mean, none of the candidates came here in person to pick up the form. They all had their supporters coming in to pick the form.
And Latif, surprisingly, one of those candidates, we'll go through the entire list of 5. One of those candidates who had people picked up forms on his behalf was Alban Bagbin, the second Deputy Speaker of Parliament, who's probably been the most vocal opponent to the process. Tell us what happened. Who were those who picked the forms on his behalf?
So one Mr. Dawara, David Dawara, led a 3-man delegation who came in at the last hour. I mean, it was almost some few minutes to 5, which was the closing time when they came in here to pick the nomination form. Apparently, they have placed a call to the Secretariat of the NDC that they were on their way coming to pick up the form. So they made room for them to, as it were, pick up the form. So Mr. Dawara picked up the form, and I approached him and asked him, we've heard your candidates speaking so much about this 20,000 for picking up the forms and then the 400,000 filing fee. Whether or not Mr. Bagbin has changed his mind on his position on the amount being charged. He said that is a democratic process. People have dissenting views and nothing stops them from speaking about the fees. Even though they feel it's on the high, they still think that Mr. Bagbin stands a better chance than former President Mahama to lead the NDC into the 2020 elections, reason why they've gone around the country to mobilize funds to come and pick up the form on his behalf. He also added that they've consulted Mr. Bagbin, they had his blessings before coming in here to pick up the nomination form, Evans.
I see. And you spoke to him, and one of the things he told you is that, in fact, they have the consent of Alban Bagbin to pick the forms. Listen to the leader of the delegation from the constituency who picked up the forms on behalf of Alban Bagbin, speaking to you, Latif. We'll come back with what else has been happening with the form picking today.
Yes, I have. I have the blessings of Mr. Bagbin to pick up this form. What I said from the beginning was that he has been our MP for all these years. A very capable MP, a very strong man, somebody who has contributed immensely to the growth and development of NDC party in this country. And so when the nominations were opened, we, knowing the potentials in him, urge him on, push him on to come and contest. But we know that he is a presidential material. So we push him to come and contest. As we speak, we solicited his views and told him what he can do for Ghana and what he has done for the constituency and continue to do for our constituency. And so that we hope and believe that he can translate what he was doing in his constituency into the entire country. So we push him, and he has agreed to contest. So me coming here to pick the form, it is with consent that I am here to pick the form. And the constituents, we have also contributed, knowing who he is, what he has done, and what he is capable of doing in the future. That's why we are also here to pick the form and to urge him on, assist him, so that he can contest. And we believe strongly that at the end of the day, he will emerge the winner.
What happened to the initial protest that he raised about the fees that has been put on the nomination form to start with?
In that regard, I would not want to go further. But what I can say is that if we look at the philosophies and the ideals of the NDC, they are all aimed at the common man. So what essentially he was saying was that, yes, we actually need money to go into the contest. But should money be the only criteria?
And Latif, if you listen to him there, he was confident that not only are they going to fill the form and return it, but they want to go to the entire process. And we know that when you return the forms, then you have to pay the 400,000. And he says that they are determined to get Alban Bagbin to go to the entire process and pay the 400,000 cedis, which he's been protesting and kicking against all this while. Latif.
Yeah.
You get the same impression that it appears that if nothing changes, once they return the forms, they'll have to pay the 400,000 and Bagbin will pay.
Yeah, that's the situation, Evans. So now we still have, as it stands now, without getting what FEC is going to come out with, it means that once you are returning the forms, you are supposed to come along with your 400,000 Ghana cedi. And I must say that addressing the media a short while ago, we just ended by Otokuno. What has come up is that now that they've picked up their forms, what is expected that these candidates are supposed to go across the 10 regions to get the form endorsed by the various executives within the constituencies. So between January 17th and 18th, 2019, there's going to be vetting. These 5 candidates will be vetted, and then once you've been given the pass, you can now go ahead and then campaign. And then on the 19th of January 2019, we should expect this election of the flag bearer of the opposition NDC to take place across the 10 regions of the country, Evans.
Okay, so what I just said is, in essence, another point, a slap in the face of the aspirants who have insisted that they should extend the process and hold the primaries in March. For what you're saying, it appears the Functional Executive Committee has decided that they're going to go ahead with the 19th January primary and not extend it.
Exactly, Evans. As it stands, there hasn't been even a single change in the initial roadmap that has been put up by the NDC. Whatever they put up is what they are going with as it stands. So we have Mr. Bonsu, Ecospio Gabra, and the others who couldn't make it up to pick up the form. Now they are out of the race completely. They are out of the race. We have 5 candidates going forward, and these are the candidates who are supposed to go around the 10 regions and get their forms endorsed and come back to the headquarters for their vetting on the 16th and 17th of January 2019, ahead of the 19th January elections across the country. Now, what has been made easier for these candidates is that these forms have been detached so that you do not have to carry the bulk to, say, Region A, get endorsed before you move to the second region. What has been done is that it's been detached so you can get the forms endorsed simultaneously across the country. Once you are able to distribute it to all the 10 regions, you can get it endorsed on one single day, and then does it. So the concern raised by the candidates that they have a very limited number of days to get the endorsement done. According to Otokuno, that has been addressed to some extent with the detachment of the forms that have been given out to the candidates today. According to Otokuno, that is one way they're trying to make the whole process fair for the candidate, given the limited number of days they have to, campaign, get the endorsement, and also hold the election come January 19th, Evans.
Fascinating outcome there. And Latif, hold the line for me, because something we need to reiterate. What it means is, and from what we're hearing from the NDC headquarters, is a number of these aspirants who did not pick the forms and which the window closed just about 42 minutes ago have effectively been disqualified from the race. And there are some significant names whose presidential ambitions have been terminated as of tonight, 42 minutes ago. And they include the likes of Dr. Kospio Gabra, Guzi Tano, Kojo Bonsu, former mayor of Kumasi, Elikle Magbamava, and also, of course, Nuruddin Idrisu. These individuals have been disqualified as of tonight. Those who managed, and this is the fascinating bit, there were 8 of them who signed one petition. And in the petition, they said they are boycotting the process. They will not pick the forms. Out of the 8 that signed, a number of them said we are sticking by what we agreed, the petition that we signed and our position. We won't pick the forms. However, as we're now learning, some of them broke ranks in the very last minute and changed their minds and then gave consent to people to go and pick the forms on their behalf. One of them is Alban Babin Lentov. But there was another one. There's another one. Sylvester Mensah, one other candidate, aspirant, who also signed that same petition, agreeing to boycott the process, also turned around today and got his people to pick up forms for him today at the party headquarters. We'll hear from the group that picked the forms on Sylvester Mensah's behalf shortly here on Top Story, and why they did so and whether they've abandoned the protest that they've been on in the last few days, protesting the arrangement. And so it leaves the rest in the cold, really. We were going together, protesting this. We were united in the numbers, hopefully forcing the party to change course, and then all of a sudden some broke ranks and went ahead and picked the forms. One of the aspirants who stood his ground and has been very consistent, did not budge, did not turn around and pick forms, is former Trade Minister Dr. Kospio Gabra. Thankfully, he joins us on the telephone line right now. Thank you, sir, for your time here on Top Story, sir. Hello, Dr. Gabra.
Yes, good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much for joining us. From what we're hearing from the Functional Executive Committee, it appears that your chances, your dream of becoming a president, your presidential ambitions have been terminated tonight.
Why?
Because they've closed the picking of forms, and from what the press conference that we just had, the party is going to go ahead with the rest of the process without you.
Well, we have not heard from the Council of Elders. If the Council of Elders don't want to speak on this matter, then we have other options that we have to explore.
Other options such as?
We will discuss them and make them known publicly, hopefully by tomorrow or the next day.
Does that include taking this matter to court?
I can't discuss them for the time being. But every Ghanaian citizen has many options to ensure that their rights are protected.
But you are not taking off the table the possibility of challenging this in court?
All options are on the table. All options are on the table, for sure. The question is, did the National Executive Committee consult the Council of Elders or not? I mean, this is a straightforward one sentence in English in the Constitution of the NDC, which you have read yourself. So until we hear that the Council of Elders have been consulted and they claim they have accepted the timetable, the procedures, the filing fee, and all the other things, I have no basis to accept or assume that the procedure currently is legitimate. It's not legitimate.
And we know tonight some of those you signed the petition with and agreed to boycott the process have picked up forms. Sylvester Mensah, Abang Babin. What do you make of the decision to turn around?
You have to ask them whether they have actually picked up forms or people purport to have picked forms on their behalf. What all that means. First of all, the procedures are such that I don't know whether anybody can just go and pick up a form on my behalf without my knowledge and without my mandate. There ought to be a proper procedure where if the person is not picking up the form himself, whoever is picking up the form has a mandate letter or some authorization to do that. I mean, this is a credentials process. But if the party doesn't have any such process in place and anybody can just pick up and say, hey, I've got this money and I'm picking on behalf of Mr. So-and-so, then that itself can be a question that can be challenged at an appropriate time. But I think it's best to talk to those on whose behalf some people claim to have picked forms to understand whether this is being done with their knowledge, their approval, and what it means with regards to their petition. Because if they want to then go and pay the $420,000 and bring the nominations within 10 days and all the other things, then that's one thing. But if they want to have their legs in both places and be filing a petition while at the same time trying to meet the current rules, then that's another matter. So let them explain.
Dr. Spagabra, we spoke to the leader, for example, of the delegation that picked the forms on behalf of Abang Babing, and he was emphatic that before they came, they got the consent of Mr. Babing himself, who gave them blessing to go ahead and pick the forms and pay the 20,000 cedis.
Is that Mr. Babing or Mr. Mensah?
Sorry, this is Mr. Babing spoke. The person who spoke for the people who.
I believe Babing says that he hasn't mandated anybody to pick any forms on his behalf, and he's not accepting that such forms have been picked on his behalf. But I mean, that he should speak for himself. He should speak on his behalf.
Have you heard anything from the Council of Elders?
I believe I've heard that they are planning to meet either today or tomorrow, but I'm not, privy to their timetable. I don't get invitations to their meetings, so I wouldn't know. But I believe they have received a petition and that.
But if they meet tomorrow, it's going to come a whole day late.
The question is whether the procedures the party headquarters adopted are flawed, legitimate, or illegitimate. So if it's illegitimate, then no matter what they claim they are doing, it's all null and void. If it turns out that it's legitimate also, then fine. So all that is, for now, is speculation. I can speculate this way and somebody can speculate another way. So let's wait and see how everything works out for the good of Almighty God and the people of Ghana.
There has been a functional executive committee meeting today where decisions have been taken. If you don't mind, we just got a member of the National Executive Committee on the line with the very latest on what they've decided. If you just hold the line brief for me, we can get the very latest on this. That may help the process going forward. We've just been joined on the line right now by a Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Otokuno, who is on the line with us right now. Mr. Otokuno, thank you for your time here on Top Story, sir. Hello, Mr. Otokuno.
Hello.
Thank you, Mr. Otokuno, for your time here on Top Story.
Yeah, Evans, how are you doing? It's been a while.
Oh, it's been a while, yes. It's been a long time. I hope you're doing well.
Yeah, God has been good, my brother.
God has been good, obviously. I saw you dancing on the night of the election. let me ask you, what did the functional executive decide as regards the protests that you've seen on the filing and nomination processes, etc.?
Evans, the decision was made by NEC last week, as was announced by the General Secretary. And yesterday and today, the 3rd and the 4th of December, was supposed to be a day for opening of nominations. And we have done exactly that. It's 5:50 p.m. and we close exactly at 5 p.m. and 5 aspirants came in to pick their nominations. They sent their representatives to pick the nominations on their behalf. And the aspirants are His Excellency President Mahama, who got a team to pick on his behalf yesterday. Then this morning we had a team representing Professor Joshua Alabi coming to pick the forms on his behalf. Then later a team came on behalf of Stephen Atubiga. Then we had another team come on behalf of Mr. Sylvester Adina Mensah. Then finally, when it was around 5:50, we had 4:50, we had a team coming to represent Honorable Alban Kingsford Suman Agbagben. So we have 5 aspirants pick their nominations. They are supposed to go around the country, fill the forms, get all the endorsements in all the 10 regions, and submit on the 13th and 14th of this month at the National Secretariat. When that is done, we are going to do a vetting of the prospective aspirants on the 17th and 18th of December. After that, we'll do the balloting and open notice of poll on the 27th of December, where aspirants can come in and do the needed corrections to their names and to their pictures. Then on the 19th of January, we'll conduct the elections for our flag bearer. Okay.
Now, what happens to the aspirants who did not pick forms by 5 o'clock tonight?
Evans, if you have not picked the form, then you are not an aspirant. If you have not picked the form, then you are not an aspirant. So anybody who expressed interest, who brought letter of intent, who was not able to pick the form, perhaps reconsidered his chances and felt that there would not be a need to pick the nominations form. That is what perhaps I can assume prevented them from picking the forms. So
to put it bluntly, all those other aspirants who didn't pick forms, the door is shut. It's effectively disqualified from the race. They cannot do anything about it. There's no way coming back.
The door is completely shut. They can't. The door is completely shut.
But they were hopeful that today, when you met, you would consider their petition and extend the process and reduce the prizes.
NEC has not met. NEC has taken their decision and they have brought in regulation. NEC has not received any petition and has not received any formal complaint or any formal request. So we, the Secretariat, we are enjoined by the Constitution to implement the decisions of NEC, and that is exactly what we are doing. As it stands now, we have undertaken the first part, and we are waiting for the filing, then continue. Anybody who had grievances, who perhaps have not been able to officially extend the grievance to the National Executive Committee. The National Executive Committee obviously would be unable to consider such grievances. So that is the state right now that we are in.
You talked about the Constitution. Now, the main ground of opposition to the process is that the process itself is illegal because Article 42F of your Constitution says that you must set these guidelines in consultation with the Council of Elders. Did you consult the Council of Elders before you setting out the guidelines?
Evans, first of all, let me indicate that I don't want and I can't talk about a petition that I have not seen. I can't talk about the grounds that I have not seen. But I would say that that particular clause and every single other clause and every single other article in our Constitution was strictly followed in taking decisions for our regulations.
So the Council of Elders was consulted.
The Council of Elders were consulted as Article 14 considered. And remind you, the process did not start with this new administration. The process started with the old administration, and it is on record that we had discussed earlier on with the Council of Elders. Maybe not the figures, not the details, but we have consulted them as the Constitution demands.
Okay, so now you clarified they were consulted, but they did not approve these figures that has become a subject of controversy because we're not aware.
Evans, and the Constitution did not say that we should consult the Council of Elders on figures. Did it?
Well, not that specific. No,
exactly.
That's a consultation.
So, yeah, exactly.
I see. Well, now the window is shut. You expect them to return with the forms in what, 10 days?
Yes, in 10 days. So the 10 days starts from, if you picked it yesterday and you think that 13th is okay for you to submit, fine. If you think 14th is okay for you to submit, fine. But we have 10 days to complete the forms and add all the prerequisites as stipulated for by the regulations. Then you can submit at the party secretariat.
We just heard Spio Gabra say to us a short while ago that they are going to take this matter on and that nothing is off the table, including suing you.
Well, I mean, under the laws of this country and the laws of the party, anybody who has grievances there are procedures, laid down procedures under which one can express his or her grievance. So they are allowed under law to take any action or initiative or any step that they want to take, and we would encourage that. We will not discourage that at all.
I'm grateful. That is the Deputy General Secretary of the NDC, Peter Tokuno. Let's bring in political scientist with the University of Ghana. Dr. Hassan is on the line with us. Doc, thank you very much for your time here on Top Story. Hello, Doc. Hello, Doc. Thank you for your time here on Top Story.
Hello.
Yes. Can you hear me, sir?
Yes.
I'm grateful that you were able to join us. What's your reaction to these developments as we've just been hearing? A number of the aspirants have had their presidential ambitions terminated tonight. There's no way back, we've just heard. They are threatening that they're going to take this matter up and nothing is off the table, including illegal action.
Well, thanks for inviting me. You know, the party sets its own rules. And the rules, if the national executive followed the rules as they must, then I'm not sure what other route anybody has in suing the party. I don't know that would be they have any recourse. So that is the first part. The second part has to do with the amount of money that aspirants are being asked to pay, which actually is a bone of contention that is too high. There's no question that it is very high. And for me, it raises a much bigger picture, a much bigger problem for this country. And that has to do with campaign finance. I heard on a different platform, I believe it was yesterday, when the General Secretary of the NDC was saying that the party needs money for this, and people who are complaining that it's too high have not offered any suggestions regarding options that they may use. They were just saying it's too high. And they are the ones who are in the thick of things, know how much money they need. They say they have a budget. So it raises a bigger picture. Is this how Ghana wants to proceed with its democracy? Because I can tell you that next election after 2020 will be 2024. It will be much higher than this.
Yeah.
And what it will do is that it is going to prevent very good people from participating.
And that has been one of the biggest concerns in the wake of this, controversies around the NDC filing fees. Dr. Hassan, we'll return to you on this. We'll return to you on this in a short while because we're returning to. We'll be speaking to Alban Bagbin and Sly Mensah on the picking of nomination forms and what happened with the switch, with the change of heart. As we interrogate this a bit more, Dr. Hassan will rejoin us as we go back to the NDC headquarters and get further details on what is happening there now that the window is shut on the other aspirants. This has been Top Story.
But I thought you said your place was ransacked by thieves a short while ago. So how did you manage to replace all your stuff so